right. Yes, we're good? You can hear me all right? Yes? All right. Well, good evening and welcome. It's great to see everybody here tonight. For those who don't know me, I'm Amalia Duarte, not Amelia. If I had a nickel for that. Chair for the Morris County Democratic Committee, and I was also just sworn into my third term on the Mendham Township Committee, so I was very excited about that. Well done. So thank you all for coming out tonight to kick off our series of forums featuring candidates for the U.S. Senate. A cornerstone of our democracy is making informed, fact-based decisions. So we're very pleased to offer this opportunity to learn more about the priorities of our Senate candidates, starting with First Lady Tammy Murphy. And you probably saw this already, but we've scheduled a forum with Congressman Andy Kim. That's going to be Saturday, January 20th. We are working with the campaign for Dr. Patricia Campos Medina and the other announced candidates to provide them with a similar platform to present their ideas. I want to introduce my co-moderator. I know most of you know her, but Darcy Drager, the Executive Board Secretary for Morris County. And as you know, Darcy served as the Morris County Chairwoman for Tom Malinowski's very successful campaign back in 2018. And she served as Municipal Chair for Chester Township Dems and also ran for State Assembly twice in 2019 and 2020. So thank you, Darcy. All right, so speaking of campaigns, here's the public service announcement. This is Morris County. Who is not from Morris County who's here right now? Okay, well, this is Morris County, so we are always looking for people to run for office and people to volunteer. So if you're interested and you're not yet involved, please contact your municipal chair, and if you don't know who that is, just visit the website, which is morrisdems.org, or send an email to info@morrisdems.org, and we will help you make that connection. All right, just want to thank all of our county elected officials. I'm not going to get into naming everybody. Elected officials, state committee members, municipal chairs, county committee members, caucus leaders, et cetera, who are here tonight. We're looking to build on our success from 2023, where we did really well with our county and state races. So thank you for those folks who ran at the county and state level. And at the local level, we had some things to get excited about. I mean, we won in our usual towns, but in Chatham Township, we got back control. We got a seat back in Parsippany, and we have our first Democratic deputy mayor in Mendham Township. Woo.
Now just to get the mayor.
All right. So I encourage you to get involved and help elect Democrats up and down the ticket this year. And before we get started, I'm going to make the little announcement like at the movies. Don't ruin it for everybody else, okay? Silence your cell phones. Be respectful of everybody who's here tonight, of the candidate, of the moderators, and of your fellow attendees, right? You've all just taken time out of your very busy lives to be here. So please be respectful. If you hear something you like, it's okay to clap, but let's be open-minded and with all of our forums, no disruptions, please. We're just not going to tolerate it. So let's all be welcoming. Hi, Judy. And I'm sorry, I just smile when I see Judy. She just won a Parsippany seat. That was big.
Judy!
Okay, so we are here to listen and learn. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our Senate candidate, First Lady Tammy Murphy, who's going to do an intro, and then we're going to get into some Q&A. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Amalia. Thank you, Darcy. Thank you to the MCDC for organizing this. And honestly, thank you to all of you for coming out at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night. I'm sure you could have found something better to do, but thank you for being here. You know, I could introduce myself, give you details on my upbringing that would tell you about my values. I could talk to you about my career in finance in New York and overseas. I could talk to you about my 15 years of living overseas and how I viewed the United States through a foreign lens. I could also talk to you about having served as First Lady, the greatest honor of my life, I will tell you, for these last 6 plus years, and the work that I have done on the ground as First Lady in climate change education, in healthcare, in helping with economic development. But I think probably for expediency's sake, I think the real thing you want to know is why am I running? So I want to tell you that really quickly and then you answer any questions you want. I am running because I am deeply concerned about the world we are handing over to our children and the next generation. I see the world through my 4 children's eyes, 26, 24, 22, and 20. And what I see is that they look at Washington, D.C. right now, and they do not feel any connectivity. They don't have faith. They don't see people who are fighting for anything that's important to them. And at the end of the day, that means they're not interested in voting or supporting those people. God bless you. If I take my 4 children and I think even further about what is important to me and what I want to work on in Washington, D.C., I would say, first, I look at my eldest. He just rolled off of our healthcare policy, December 31st. That has been a very traumatic time for the last 3 months, and clearly we have the means to help him. But he's 26, he's self-employed, and he had to find his own way. Paying for healthcare, alongside paying for gas, paying for rent, having basically his first job. It's a lot. And New Jersey, as we all know, it's a very expensive state. So affordability is a big deal. I can assure you, going to Washington, D.C., I will work very hard on affordability, and particularly as I think about it next year, the SALT deduction will come up again, and we have to get that back. So that's one. I then think about my daughter, and I think about reproductive freedoms. It's impossible for me to fathom that a right that I have had and enjoyed for my entire life is being stripped away by a far-right extremist court. And while we in New Jersey have codified abortion, that law is only as strong as our elected lawmakers. And we're fine for now, but in my opinion, we have got to work on this at the federal level, because if we don't codify this at the federal level, then we will suffer for the rest of our lives, and women will constantly be in fear of what's going to happen next. When is the next shoe going to drop? That's my daughter. Then I have another son who is trained as a leader for Al Gore's Climate Reality Group. That is climate change, and we in our family believe in climate change. Some do not. That's fine. But we talk about climate change all the time. I mean, look at Morris. Look at the Rockaway River. Look at the fact that Dover Mayor isn't even here tonight. I'm glad to see Parsippany's in the house, because who would have thought? But this is coming at us fast and furiously. And if we don't take this seriously, not only is it going to continue to be a problem here and now, but future generations are going to suffer. And that's something I care about tremendously. Should I go to Washington, D.C., I will continue to support climate change and money for climate change coming into our state. The Inflation Reduction Act was unbelievable, remains unbelievable, but there's more we can do, and we have to keep doing it, particularly in New Jersey. And then lastly, I would tell you about my youngest son. He is in college, and we have conversations all the time. Where can he go where he's safe? Can he go on the college campus? Can he go to the supermarket? Can he go to a bowling alley? Can he go, out with friends? Can he go to church? Not that he's planning on going to church anytime soon, but I would just say that gun safety measures are unacceptable across our country. I was just looking, I stay up on this a lot, and if you don't know this, we had 656 mass shootings in the United States last year. As of this morning, today is the 11th, right? As of this morning, we've already had 7 in 2024. We have an A in New Jersey from the Giffords Law Center for gun safety, which is great. We have fabulous gun safety laws on the books. But the fact of the matter is, our urban centers are still a problem, and we have porous borders, so anyone can load a truck with as many guns as they want and drive them right into our state, and there's very little we can do about that. So I have taken on some of the biggest challenges in our state in terms of climate change education, in terms of infant and maternal health. I am unabashed to take on the big fights. I've been the only woman in a room for many years of my life. I understand what that feels like, and I would be honored to be the first female senator to go from New Jersey down to Washington, D.C. Importantly, when I take all of these things together, I will tell you, if my children in a house like ours are not really interested in voting, that tells me that that's a mirror of an entire generation and that democracy is literally on the line. So with all of that, that's my why. And I will now just answer questions, and I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Thank you. And you talked about your 4 kids, so I'll talk about my kid. One of them's right there. Oh, my kid. But they're also young adults at this point as well. And I remember though when they were little, we used to go through Band-Aids, like boxes of Band-Aids. I don't have to buy Band-Aids anymore because they were active, running around the yard, whatever. So the approach I used to take when they were little and the Band-Aid was on and I had to remove it was, we're not going to do the little pull a little bit at a time. We're just going to rip off the Band-Aid. So we had discussed this, prior, but I thought, we got a lot of questions in. So what we're going to be asking are questions that were pre-submitted. And there were quite a few questions, as we discussed a minute ago, about, that's a beautiful why, but there were questions about kind of your candidacy. And that you've never run for elected office before. Obviously, you're the first lady, your husband's governor. And when you announced, that opened up the potential for endorsements, publicity, et cetera. So again, it's kind of the elephant in the room, but I would appreciate it if you would kind of address that question that is on the minds of folks here in Morris County.
Sure.
Well, it's really, I think, that the question is to talk about the First Lady's candidacy and, what she's hearing, no doubt some criticism, right? Would you agree? And so what yeah, well, that you've had it, by announcing as First Lady, it has opened up a path for you that, if somebody else in the room had announced, somebody sent in the question, if Tammy Snyder, they're making up the name, had announced they were running for Senate, just wouldn't have had the platform that you've had. So that's the question, and just to address those sorts of concerns. And I see people nodding their heads,
Sure.
So if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's a lot I can say here. Let me start by telling you all that if anybody had told me on October 30th that I would be sitting in front of you as a federally declared candidate, I would have said, you're not well, please go see someone. I had no intention of running. And I can go through the whole process, but I will tell you, I fully intend to be on the ground and earn every single vote that I will get. I am really honored that I have had a lot of support. I can tell you that. I'm honored that I've had support from some of the people in our state who have been working for decades on the Democratic Party, and I am thrilled that they're supporting me. Why are they supporting me? When I was coming here this evening, I was looking through my diary, and I realized I have been in Morris County in the last 6 years more than 30 times. I have been on the ground. I have been at schools. I have been at Fairleigh Dickinson. I spoke at the convocation at Fairleigh Dickinson. I've gone to visit schools for their sustainability efforts. I've been with Christine Clark and others in the MCDC, knocking on doors, canvassing, doing everything I can do to help build the party across our state. I've been in all 21 counties, and I have done that serially for years on end. So when I had the support of all of these people who are involved in the Democratic Party, I genuinely believe that they gave me their support, not because my husband asked, because I asked. And they know me. They've worked beside me. When Phil came into office back in, when he was first being elected, back in 2017, the Democratic Party, many of you may or may not know this, was housed in a brownstone in Trenton. The brownstone was so filled with black mold that we had to seal off certain rooms within the brownstone in order to be able to function. And even then, it was probably a health hazard to be in the building. I viewed the Democratic Party as being the muscle that would enable us to do all the great things that we've been able to do, to expand voting rights, to have paid leave, to have equal pay for equal work. But the fact of the matter is, the Democratic Party was hundreds of thousands of dollars in the red, and it was kind of rudderless. There was no vision, there was no financial management. And so I went in and helped to move and sell the building, to raise the money to help stabilize the party, bring in new leadership, and work on the vision for the party. I did that. I can guarantee you can ask anybody you want. So I know these people, and I've been working alongside them for years. So it's not out of character that they would lean in and help me and think that I can get things done, because that's what I do. I get stuff done. But furthermore, I would say, I have had the support. I've had over 60 faith leaders and advocates across our state. I've had elected officials. I've had 6 of the 9 members of the congressional delegation to Washington, D.C., who have come out and endorsed me. And I've had unions now are starting to endorse me. I haven't had the chance to be on the ground as much as I would like, because I've been at this for about 6 weeks. So I'm really happy to have this chance to be here tonight, but I will assure you, I will be on the ground. I will meet with people. I want to have those conversations, and I want to hear from people who not only are with me, but people who are not with me. Because when I go to Washington, D.C., I need to be able to channel all the voices of the 9.3 million residents of the state of New Jersey, and I need to make sure that when I'm asked to vote on something, that I have the ability to know both sides and not just what I'm seeing through one lens.
That's such a great point. I get asked that in my little town, like, you're a Democrat, et cetera. I'm like, I'm there for everybody.
Yeah.
When you get elected, you represent everyone, whether they voted for you or not, whether they like you or not, it doesn't matter. If somebody calls you up on an issue, you respond to it. I'm going to ask you one more tough one.
Sure.
So according,
that one's
fun. Yeah, I know this is easy. But then we get into the fun stuff. But no, according to the Times, you were a registered Republican until August, I think, of 2014. And then you switch parties, which there's a lot of party switching going on right now to our side, so
Yeah.
Good with that. But the question came in that why were you a Republican so long? And then what made you finally switch over?
Sure. So I grew up in a small business household, and my family was moderately conservative. I grew up in Virginia. I cared a lot and continue to care to this day about education. I cared about the environment. And I cared about reproductive freedoms. I would tell you that I supported candidates and continue to support candidates who had passions in those 3 areas. Hopefully all 3, but at least one of those 3. Over the years, literally, I ran out of room. The Republican Party left me, and I realized that actually I'm a Democrat. I have not voted for a Republican in the general election in 2 decades. I have done more to not only build up the Democratic Party here in New Jersey, but to support the party financially and in any way possible. And I am proud of where I am. And again, I'm proud of the fact that I have a lot of the most dedicated elected officials and people who are building up the party in our state who are standing beside me.
Great, thank you. I'm going to shoot over to Darcy now.
And I get to start asking some of the more substantive policy questions.
Okay,
So
good.
we'll pivot here into some legislation and some of your overall priorities. You mentioned a few minutes ago, New Jersey is dealing with major flooding issues right now in Chester, in Dover, Parsippany, Denville. Because we've had the major snowstorm, we had the torrential rains, and so as a senator, how would you help us here in New Jersey deal with the risk of flooding in our communities and the economic impact that comes with that as well?
Yeah. So listen, I feel your pain. I cannot imagine, you guys have dealt with, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
You've dealt with flooding serially here, and it's not right. The only way we're going to fix this is if the Army Corps of Engineers shows up here and basically does the job that they need to do. We need to really push the Army Corps of Engineers here and now to make sure that everything that they can do, everything that they can do and everything that they should do is being done for everyone here. I would also just say, this is a space that I have been concerned about for a long time. I am a founding member of Al Gore's Environmental Board, and I have been beefing up in this space for a good while. I would tell you, if you don't know this, that New Jersey is second only to Florida in the country for susceptibility to sea level rise. Most people think when sea level rise comes in that they're on the ocean and they're going to be stocked on the ocean front. That's not the case. When the sea level rises, the first places that really get impacted are all the rivers and the estuaries, because the water goes in and there's nowhere for it to go. So it just goes into the houses, into the schools, and that's what happens. So it really is on the Army Corps of Engineers, and we have to really push them.
Excellent.
Sorry, one more thing. I also would say that the Inflation Reduction Act has given more money to climate change and to really fixing a lot of these challenges across our country. And that's something else I will lean in very hard on, because we need to continue making sure that that money is coming from the federal level down to the states, and particularly New Jersey.
Absolutely. Pivoting to, with the overturning of Roe versus Wade in 2022, many states are making it increasingly difficult for women to access reproductive health care, at times endangering their lives. In fact, as many of the people in this room probably know, 14 states have banned abortion, and another 11 states have severely restricted access to any sort of abortion health care. What legislation would you present to protect abortion across the country?
As I was saying earlier, I think we have to take this to the federal level. We have got to codify abortion rights, reproductive freedoms. I personally do not believe that the government has any right in making the private decisions and helping people make the private decisions. When a woman wants to start a family, that should be her own decision to make with her partner and with her doctor. I do not think government plays a role here, unfortunately, because of the extremist right-wing Supreme Court that we are currently living under. It's got to be codified at the federal level.
Just a follow-up question to that as well. Maternal mortality has been a focus for you in New Jersey, and we are going to see increasing amounts of maternal mortality across America because of abortion restrictions. How would you help address maternal mortality issues in New Jersey, given that restrictions, or people could be coming across the border, could be coming here with more complicated pregnancies?
Okay, well, I could talk about maternal mortality for the next several days on end. In fact, I just this morning hosted 20 legislators at the governor's mansion. We were going through our annual legislative briefing as to where we are right now, how far we have come with maternal mortality rates, and where we are going. I would tell you that when my husband came into office, we were 47th in the country for maternal mortality rates. New Jersey, the medicine cabinet to America. We have some of the finest healthcare systems in the country, and we were 47th for maternal mortalities. I've been working on this every day for 6 years. We have a strategic plan that has 80 actionable steps. We've started or completed over half of those at this point in time. And I'm really proud to tell you that since we started something called Nurture NJ, we have now been able to move our state from 47th to 27th. We have a long way to go, but that's in basically 5 years. We've been able to move up 20 places. But my goal is to make New Jersey the safest and most equitable state in the country in which to deliver and raise a baby. We're going to get there. And I have the whole plan. I can tell you the whole blueprint. In fact, when my husband was serving as national governor, as chair of the National Governors Association, he had the ability to work on an initiative across the country. He chose youth mental health. I also had the ability to work on an issue, and I chose infant and maternal health. And we both had convenings all across the country in five different times in Utah, in California, and in Michigan. And I will tell you that we had bipartisan input on best practices from all across the country. Of course, I stole all those ideas and brought them all the good ones back here to New Jersey. But it's fixable. We can fix this in the United States. And in New Jersey, we're on a path.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's shift to talking about some of our social programs. Social Security, the Affordable Care Act, Medicare. Republicans have really been focused on killing.
Tammy, oh, sorry. Do you want to switch mic?
Okay, so I'll start over. Social Security, the Affordable Care Act, and Medicare. Unfortunately, Republicans have really been focused on killing or privatizing these programs. What policies do you support to maintain these programs for the next generation without resorting to massive benefit cuts?
So, are you on? So listen, I and Phil and I both together have worked for years to ensure equitable access, equitable care, equitable access not just to healthcare, to education. I mean, everything we are doing is we're trying to make all boats rise together, and I feel that in my core. For now, Medicare for All is absolutely the best. It's the only way that we can ensure that it's the only way that we can ensure that everyone has access to health care, because that's something everybody deserves and that's right. If there are better ideas that come up, if there's reforms to that should someone should proffer, then by all means I would absolutely listen. But for now, that is the best that we have, and I would support that. What else? Other ones? I'm sorry.
Social Security.
Social Security. I mean, look. It's going to be the same for all of these. I mean, I think. It's a little bit like the pension funds here in New Jersey. It's like we make a deal with people. You do this, and then you get that. We can't leave people behind. Social Security, we owe it to people. It's not ours to take away.
Excellent.
Great. Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple now, shifting from healthcare into income inequality. So, according to statistics, the top 1% of Americans now own more wealth than the bottom 92%. The 50th wealthiest Americans own more wealth than half the country that's at the bottom. So do you believe economic inequality is a problem in our country? And if so, if you're elected, what would you propose to do about it? And do you support a wealth tax?
Yes, there's a problem. Absolutely, there's a problem. We have a problem in New Jersey. I was talking about affordability already, and there is absolutely a problem. And it evidences itself. I mean, I see it from being at the kitchen tables of women when I've talked to mothers with infant and maternal health. I mean, it's access to housing, it's access to education, it's access to workforce development. All of these things together conspire against people. And so we have to do everything we can to ensure that we are supporting everyone. I do genuinely believe that all boats rise together. I think we're better as human beings if we are taking care of our neighbors, and I don't see any way around that other than to, put more of a burden on those who have more. I mean, that's the way it goes. We have imposed a millionaire's tax here in New Jersey. We were told that we would lose all our millionaires and we would lose all of that income. Well, guess what? We have more millionaires today than we had before. So I think we can carry on. I am all for. I would never want to put a tax on our lower income or our middle income families who are really striving to, move forward and really need a helping hand. But for those who can help, they should.
Great. Okay. Here's another question about affordability. So I love doing research for these questions. According to Forbes, over the past 30 years, tuition costs at colleges have gone from $4,000 to $10,000 a year at four-year colleges. That's public, not private. At private colleges, it's all of us with college-age children saying, what? At private colleges, it's gone from an average of $19,000 to $38,000 a year, adjusted for inflation. Some are a lot more and some are less. Okay. The average New Jersey college student graduates with about $35,000 in debt. So the question is, if you are elected as senator, how do you plan to address the student loan debt crisis and college affordability?
I think it's shocking that we are saddling the next generation with this amount of debt. They can't afford it. They cannot afford to come out of school, get a job, get a home. It's unacceptable, and we have to do everything we can to help them. And I firmly believe that the costs are too high, so we have to find a way to ensure that if we want our children to be educated and be the brightest and best they can be, that we are not saddling them. It's amoral at this point in time, and we have to find a way around it.
Do you believe in forgiving the college debt?
I believe that we have to forgive some of the college debt. Yes, I do believe that. By the way, you know, this is something, education, we have the best education system in the United States, here in New Jersey. But it's expensive. It costs us a lot of money. The fact of the matter is we have some of the brightest leaders of the future, and they're here. I view investing in our students, investing in health, investing in education, that's the only way that we are going to have the great country that we all deserve down the road and the great state that we deserve. So,
All right, thank you. Back over to Dorothy.
Me. So this is a multi-part question. So we'll go slow. So you are seeking a federal office, a legislative position at the federal level. What do you feel in your background prepares you for the legislative and federal aspects of the office? And then also, given the partisan gridlock in Congress, how would you plan on moving legislation forward?
sure. So thank you for asking me the question. One thing I will tell you that I believe very firmly is Washington is dysfunctional, and the last thing we need in Washington right now is more of Washington. We need people who bring something new, a new energy and a new talent. I have Jersey knowledge. I will be representing New Jersey. As I said, I've been to all 21 counties within our state. I have been embedded in communities. We've held family festivals, bringing resources to people on the ground. And my strong belief is that we need people who care and know about our state. I can check both of those boxes. We need people who understand that being a public servant is exactly that. It's not about the me, it's about the we. And you have to be able to represent the people and understand and know and understand what the issues are on the ground. I would also just tell you that having lived the life I've lived, whether it's, you know, having lived 15 years of my life overseas, having viewed the United States through a foreign lens, I know what it means to either have something at my disposal and wish that I had something that was on the other side of the ocean, or to really be able to watch the news and see what other countries focus on when they look at our country. It's really shocking. I would also tell you that in these last years, serving, whether it was serving our country and representing our country for 4 years in Germany, when my husband served as ambassador, I had, you know, I was at the table every day, at the table, working on a lot of the issues facing our country and trying to help move the needle overseas. Here in New Jersey, whether it's on infant and maternal health on the one hand, where we have passed and Phil has signed 60 pieces of legislation in the last 5 years, 60. And I have been, again, at the table, working with the lawyers, working with the legislators, trying to understand what the innuendo would be if we tweaked language here and there, and how we can really help people. So I know how to do the legislation. I've been doing it. I would just say that at the end of the day, a lot of people, you know, a couple of these questions, I'm not sure that a male would be asked these questions. I just don't know that a male would be asked these questions. And the question being, you know, a lot of people when they run for office, everybody starts somewhere, and everybody brings something to the table. I have chaired or served on boards I've run a think tank. I have worked in finance. I've worked in international finance all across Europe. I've lived on multiple continents. I've seen a lot. I bring a breadth and depth of experience. I bring a female voice. I am a mother. I have relations with heads of state. I've helped create and I've helped lead economic missions on behalf of our state in multiple countries, in India and Israel and Germany and Ireland. And we are making New Jersey stronger because of that. I know how to talk to people. I bring a lot to the table.
Absolutely. I'm going to pivot to the second part with partisan gridlock, because we see that in New Jersey to a certain extent, where the tribalism of politics seems to outweigh the actual policy itself, and we're certainly seeing that right now with the government shutdown being threatened at the federal level because of the House. What, in your opinion, could you do or could we do to ameliorate some of these issues?
I think there's a couple of things. First of all, one of my greatest attributes is that I'm very good at convening people. I'm very good at bringing people together. On infant and maternal health, for example, when Phil came into office and I told you we were 47th in the country, I started out internally with 2 departments and agencies working with me, Department of Health and Department of Family and Children. Seemed logical, right? As time has passed by, I now have 21 departments and agencies working on this. Why? Because as I was explaining, this is impacted, these outcomes are impacted by education, by workforce development, by housing, by transportation, by corrections, by insurance. Everything is coming together, and you've got to be able to bring people together to see the vision. I would also say that externally, you know, I created these family festivals, which are a cross between a job fair and a block party. Essentially what we do is we go into places, not in Morris actually, but we're doing another one, I guess, in Passaic in a couple weeks. But we go into towns that are really tough and have real challenges in infant and maternal health. Paterson, Trenton, Atlantic City, Camden. And we bring, I go down there early and I will go to the faith communities and speak in churches and temples, and we will go through the education system to get the word out that we're coming. And then we have about 4 or 5 hours on the ground where it's a cross between a job fair and a block party. We bring resources. About 110 different providers on average come, and they will set up shop. And it's fun, and families come, there's music, and there's food. And then I was concerned at the very first one, oh no, what happens after the 4th or the 5th hour when there's people we're missing who couldn't get there for whatever reason? And I actually watched and saw as people would say, oh hey, what is it that you do? Oh, I had a client last week, can I have your business card? And so we've created a real safety net, and it's growing all across our state. So what I would say to you is it's putting yourself in the other person's shoes and really listening, because I don't think there's a lot of listening. I think there's a lot of yelling that goes on right now. And I think that women bring something to the table that is really needed.
Excellent. One of the major concerns for this coming presidential election is the spread of lies and fake news. How could you help stop the proliferation of misleading information that might sway voters?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I hope that, you know, there's a lot that's going on. We were just in Taiwan on an economic mission, and this was a real topic of conversation because Taiwan has a presidential election that's coming up in short order. And you can imagine the type of lies that are going on in Taiwan right now. This was the dinner conversation we had with the president of Taiwan. It's education. There's a lot. I'm digging around on this because there's a lot we can do, but I don't have the right answer. If anybody has good answers on this, I would love to know what they are, because we have to do something.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Fair enough.
Amalia?
Yes, so as a local elected official, I know that I'm faced with a lot of different decisions and juggling priorities, et cetera. But if you do make it into the Senate and you could pass just one bill during your first term, what would it be?
I feel like that dun, 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 dun. Honestly, if I could codify abortion rights, I would do it. I would say, though, you work on more than one thing at a time.
Absolutely.
So I would be a big, I would also say I'd like to have better red flag laws. I'd like to ban assault rifles. I would like to have better background checks. There's a lot of things I'd like to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I apologize.
No,
That's
a fair answer.
That's fair. And speaking of that, and speaking of the amount of great policy that we'd like to get through and aren't able to get through, what are your thoughts on the filibuster? And would you work to get rid of it?
I've been thinking a lot about expanding the Supreme Court, the filibuster. I think that it's a slippery slope. I think if you expand the Supreme Court, just because one party is in control, I'm worried about what happens when the next party comes into control and where does it end. On the filibuster, I think that the Senate is the greatest deliberative body in existence. And I believe with all of my heart that when the filibuster is ongoing, we shouldn't have people like Ted Cruz who are up there reading Green Eggs and Ham. If we are actually educating and sharing our perspective, and we're able to do that through the course of conversation, that should be allowed. But I do not think it should just be random conversations about any topic you want to throw out there.
Amalia?
All right, over to me. So immigration. I happen to be a first-generation American. Both my parents are from the Dominican Republic. Immigration is a big issue for me, and in New Jersey, nearly 1 in 4 residents is an immigrant, and 1 in 6 has at least one parent who is an immigrant. It seems that the Republican Party is now using border crossing as a way to not only play to their base, but now also perhaps change the minds of some Democrats. And in fact, I saw a poll recently that showed that now most Americans, and this is across parties, think that asylum seekers coming through our southern border should get a hearing, but they should actually go back to their country waiting for that hearing and not be allowed to stay. That kind of shocked me. So what are your views on immigration? Where do you stand on immigration reform? And how do you propose it be addressed by Congress?
This has been a can that's been kicked down the road by both sides of the aisle for decades. And I would first of all say this should not be a burden on any individual city, any individual state. This is something that has to be handled at the federal level. I see this, that we need 3 things. We need comprehensive immigration reform, period. We need to make sure that our borders are secure. And finally, we have got to find a way to give a path to citizenship for all of the dreamers in our country. I believe it all has to be handled at the federal level.
Mm-hmm. And just to follow up on that, in terms of folks who are here who are currently, undocumented, there was, famously Ronald Reagan, signed legislation and made something like, if I'm remembering, 11 million folks who did not have citizenship, gave them legal status. Would you support something like that? So all of these people who are working in the shadows.
Yes, we've got to bring them out of the shadows. We absolutely have to bring them. I mean, it's safer for all of us. It's safer for them. The irony is that we have a lack of workers in many industries across our country right now. Agriculture is really suffering. We need a lot of these people, and we have to find a way to help them. I mean, they're fleeing their countries for a reason, and we are the immigrant nation. My mother is an immigrant as well, so I understand.
Good. Okay, shifting over to the Ukraine. We have this horrible war continuing in the Ukraine, and there's reluctance to provide support for that. So how can we make sure that, again, if you get into the Senate, that we can increase and support Ukrainians who are fighting for their country and their freedoms?
Yes, I was in Ukraine in February of last year and met with many elected officials there, as well as refugees and families who were fleeing. To be there, to see that the biggest cause of death is bleeding out, and to find that the military has actually set up a room in the high school where they were training people like you in between their jobs at lunchtime. This is how you tie a tourniquet. This is what you do if you don't have the proper materials. These people are suffering, and for me, it's very straightforward. If we don't support Ukraine, we are supporting Vladimir Putin, period. We have to support Ukraine, and I will do everything I can to support Ukraine.
Sort of staying here with foreign policy, what would your position be on a one China policy? And do you think that the U.S. should continue to recognize Taiwan, and should we commit to supporting them in the event of military action by China? Yeah, easy question, you know,
Really?
like simple solutions.
Listen, I believe Taiwan has the right to be Taiwan, and they do not need to be part of China. Again, having just been on the ground in Taiwan in October, they're a great democracy, and we need more democracies out there and not less. So that's where I come out on that.
All right, excellent. The conflict between Israel and Palestine has led to casualties of both Israeli citizens and, in much greater amounts, Palestinian civilians. How do you see your role as a senator in engaging with this conflict and helping set conditions on the ground for lasting peace?
Well, the one thing that I think must be handled right now is we've got to think beyond this phase, because the war is going to come to a close. It will change. But what has to happen is what's next. And in my mind, the what's next is a two-state solution. I've always thought there should be a two-state solution. There's no way that the Palestinian people nor the Israeli people can live in peace, security, and prosperity as long as they continue the way they have been. So I would work as best I can to ensure that we are establishing a two-state solution now, figuring out what the parameters of that would look like, and also trying to figure out exactly which countries, because it can't be Israel and it should not be the United States, in my opinion, should go in and actually be the interim government to help rebuild, reconstruct Gaza and make sure that the Palestinian people have all that they deserve, which is the same that we all deserve, which is the ability to live a healthy and prosperous life.
Okay, so
So do you demand a ceasefire?
can we hold that thought?
I just think it's a simple question. Could you demand a ceasefire for Gaza?
Okay, all right. All right, we will take that floor question. Go ahead.
Not until the hostages are brought out.
So you're okay with
So
We're
respect,
happy-
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're happy to address this after the questioning is done.
Okay.
Or,
Just to be clear, I think a pause to help get the hostages out, if we can get the hostages out, then that's one thing, but I don't see a ceasefire right now.
Okay. All right, well, coming back to the U.S. Questions. Do you think Donald Trump should be disqualified for running for president due to his leading role in the January 6th insurrection?
I'm not a pundit, so I will start there. But I think my views on this are very clear. I will not be supporting a President Trump, period. Nothing else to say on that. I don't believe he should be running. I don't believe that the Republicans should be supporting him. I cannot believe that 100 members of the House and the Senate have endorsed him. And that is that I go back to my comment. Democracy is on the line right now. And we need all good people to lean in and bring common sense judgment to the table and not be afraid to stand up to the powers that be.
That's great. I have one more question, which is just something that you alluded to earlier, that you said you felt that you were getting some questions. I don't think you meant this evening, but perhaps in general, that perhaps a male candidate wouldn't get. So I'm curious what you meant by that.
Yeah, no, I have been asked, I've been asked, you know, why am I running? It's a little bit akin to the nepotism question, and it's more if my name had been Tommy Murphy, I don't think people would have minded. I don't think anyone really cared when, you know, when Tom Kane ran.
We cared.
But I don't think anybody held it. I don't think anybody held it against him. Put it that way. They didn't hold it against him for running. So it's just kind of icky things like that. And you know, as I said earlier, I'm a big girl. I knew what I was getting myself into, and I genuinely believe that I'm the right candidate. I think I bring the right energy. I think I bring the sensibilities of New Jersey, and I think that I bring the experience that we need, as well as, I will tell you one other thing. I grew up in a house that I had a British mother. All she said all the time, have a stiff upper lip, work hard, get a good education, you can do anything you want in this world. My father was more of a Southern gentleman, Jewish descent. And from my father, I learned business because he was a small business owner, and I, being the youngest of 5 children, used to follow him to the office and try and put on a very sophisticated voice to answer the answering machine and, you know, be there and do anything I could to kind of learn by osmosis. But I would also say he gave a lot back to his community, and he taught and instilled in me the need to give back. And importantly, my father was the most honest man I've ever met in my life. He conducted all of his business negotiations his entire life on a handshake agreement. I'm a very honest person. I will not be able to support something I don't agree with. I will not say one thing in one room and then go next door and say something else. You have my word on that. And anybody who knows me knows that I mean that. So I would just say to you, I genuinely hope that you're with me. I hope that you will talk to me and tell me about your hopes and your dreams, because I will be in Washington, D.C., and I want to make sure that I can represent every single person across our state, and that I can make sure that when I'm asked to think about something and vote on something, that I can channel everyone's voices in my mind and make the best decisions possible for all of us, and particularly for the next generation, because anything I should do will impact them much more than it's going to impact any of us.
Right, thank you. Well, I think that's a good note to end on. My son's saying it's 8 o'clock. He's
Thank you.
So,
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And
yeah,
thanks for staying here.
Thank you. All right, we're done. Yep, okay.
Questions from the audience?
I think we're going to wrap up because we were trying to end it by 8 o'clock.
You're more than welcome to speak with her.
You know what we can do? Do you mind staying after a little bit, or we can take a couple? What?
I would love it if you could come.
Okay, then we'll take. How about we take one, Veronica, right here. The gentleman in the back who raised his hand very quickly, and I saw Bud had another one. So those are going to be the 3. And all the questions we asked had been pre-submitted, so they weren't things I made up. I just researched a little bit to give them context. So we'll start with Veronica, then the gentleman in the back, and Bud. Go ahead.
I'll try to go really quick. And I'm saying this loud, and I am saying this with complete respect. It may sound a little harsh.
No worries.
But truly with respect. You said you're a big girl. Well, you said you were a big girl. I'm saying this with respect, but it may
Yeah,
sound...
go ahead. Yeah, go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah.
Yep.
I'm saying this with respect, but it may sound a little harsh. one of the things you said was that the last thing we need in Washington is more Washington. Right now in Washington, we have more ex-Wall Street executives, more than half of Congresses. What we don't have is representation for small business owners and people who can't afford to give their employees health care. In this, in Washington, we have nepotism and cronyism. In our very state, we have Bob Menendez Jr., Tom Kane Jr. And I just want to say, like you said, in your first 6 weeks, you've been endorsed by so many people and also by unions. And it's your proximity to power that has opened doors for you that other candidates don't even know exist, okay? This is the Democratic Party. It's supposed to be championing democracy. A lot of people in this room know about the county line. They feel it's corrupt. And this question is also for Amalia and Darcy, that when are we going to stand up to this? Now, there's a lot of people know about the county line, but they also don't know that we can do open block ballots. That means that your name would be listed with Andy Kim, Lawrence Kim, and Pat Campos as a vote for the Senate, and not in the party line, which can give you up to a 38% advantage. You are a privileged candidate. I honestly believe you have good intentions, but I would love to hear you commit to an open block ballot where you and the other candidates are treated equally, and you don't have power
Okay.
that others don't.
I think we got it.
Here's what I would say.
1 second. Is the mic,
Oh, you left it off for me.
No.
We can hear you.
I don't have any magic powers like that.
Is it working now? Sorry. So here's what I would say. We operate in New Jersey under a system that is set up by statute. That's what it is right now. If the statute should change, then we all operate under a different system.
They can change it.
I'm just telling you, that's where we are. That's the system we are in right now. And,
It is up to the chairs.
oh, wait, there's something else.
So we're answering one question at a time, just again,
So,
respectfully. Yep, okay.
so my answer is that continue to operate under the law with whatever the law should be. And if we change the law, then we change the law and everybody operates under the same rules. I would also say one other thing to you, and that is I have worked really hard for small businesses. I've worked really hard for healthcare. All of the things that you're talking about, these are the reasons that I want to go to Washington, D.C. And affordability in New Jersey is, we have to keep at it. We just have to keep at it. We are a very expensive state. There's no question. But I would also say that I have worked as a full-time volunteer for no money for 7 years, and that I could have stayed home. I could have done something else. I am choosing to try and lean in so I can continue to help people like you. I don't like feeling needy. I'd far rather be out there just solving solutions. I'm needy right now because I want to go down and fight in Washington, D.C. for our state.
So, but as a follow-up.
Okay, Veronica, respectfully.
Of course, if it's lawful.
Veronica.
Will you commit to it?
Okay,
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I would just like to say, I would like to take different questions. So if we have like a theme and variation, Veronica's asked a very good, very detailed question about the line. Is your question also about the line?
Yeah, take 30 seconds, time me.
It's
No, it's a question, it's a new question. The law doesn't require you, First Lady Murphy, to take the advantage of the county line. You're permitted to reject it, to have a fair ballot.
I'm going to live within the law, so I can cut you off and say I'm going to live within the law. Let me just say that, again, this is what the statute is right now. And by the way, others who are running have benefited from the county line historically. Okay, so this question was not probably asked in 18, 20, or 22, and ask others what they think about it as well.
So,
Democrats on the Hill said yes, let's have a fair ballot. You didn't respond to the statewide coalition assessment.
okay, I know,
I didn't,
Right.
thank you so much. Bud, you had a question, you were going to be the third. Bud Ravitz, Morris Township Councilman, Committeeman.
Thank you, Ms. Murphy, for coming here tonight and giving us your views on so many things. I have so many follow-up questions. Limiting it to one is going to be tough, but I'll try. So you had touched upon, and the question was asked about partisan politics in Congress. So I want to follow up a little bit and understand, what do you see as the most major contributing factor to the gridlock that we see in Congress, and how would you, on day one, if you're elected, what would you do specifically to begin to overcome some of that gridlock?
Gridlock, I think, is caused because it's a lot easier to be negative than it is to be positive. I have a fundamental belief that we can do good and we can make our country the strongest country it can be. I also am very patient. I learned one thing from my father about people. If you have a problem with somebody, you don't know what they're going through. Did they sleep badly? Did their dog die? You don't know. So he always said, ask 3 questions before you erupt. You will rarely see me screaming or yelling. I will literally put myself in everyone else's shoes. I will be the hardest working person you have ever sent down to Washington, D.C. I'm known for working very hard. I look forward to going down and presenting myself to every single member in the Senate, sitting in their offices, getting to know them, taking them for coffee, understanding their views, and figuring out how I can find a way to make that person focus on the 90% of the things that the American public would like us to focus on, instead of focusing on the wedge 10% or 5% that we'll never agree on. I will find that, I guarantee you.
All right, so I want to ask, because we're talking about the line and then we are going to have to wrap things up. How many of you are county committee members or an elected official? In other words, how many of you are going to be able to vote at our nominating convention on March 23rd? Okay, so in Morris County, that's the process. All of our county committee members are going to have an opportunity to vote, and that's how the endorsements are given. That's the process here in Morris County. I know you're from Essex County, I believe.
But you're
Right.
looking at me.
Right.
The endorsements are wonderful. Anyone can endorse.
I just wanted to
It shouldn't go into the ballot design. That renders the candidacy
Okay.
illegitimate.
I wanted to, again, from a Morris County perspective, just inform everybody who's not from Morris County how we are operating here. We're going to have forums with our other candidates. We are trying to have an open process here in Morris County. Thank you. I'm a Democrat, and I'm also a big believer in small d democracy. So I think that it's a good process. I appreciate that the First Lady came here this evening. I learned a lot about her and about her stances on different issues. And we're going to hear from Andy Kim, and we're going to hear from Patricia Campos Medina and other candidates. And that's how it's going to roll here in Morris County. Okay?
I just want to say one other thing to anybody out there. I do believe I'm the right candidate. However, if I'm not the right candidate, I promise you I will not be doing what President Trump did. I promise you I am a team player. I will get in line, I will support, and I will do everything I can to help whoever our candidate is become the best they can be in Washington, D.C.
Thank you. All right. I don't know about you, I haven't had dinner yet, so I think we're done. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.